game junglers where he can have a larger impact.
And look, something had to give when no flex picks are banned by SKT, so Ryze would be the conventional expectation, both for SKT and in general with where the meta is at. Something like a Galio could be super high priority for SKT, given their penchant for Galio Lucian and more aggressive lanes, but passing up on Ryze, tricky for SKT, even though it's not a TL staple.
Yeah, and the question for me becomes, is Smithy willing to take the Lee Sin here now? I feel if you do not, then Clid will take it in the following rounds, and I think that is a scenario that T1 is trying to set up here. They are confident against Smithy's Lee Sin, and also very happy to take it themselves if it is left available, since it is Clid's most played champion, one that he is absolutely incredible at. Certainly, TL do have the option of skipping over that and going for something like the Varus as well as Tahm Kench or Varus Braum. That is their bread and butter, but you are then giving jungle priority or feeling over to Clid.
Difficult position to be sure. They have opted to set up that bottom lane for success with a strong lane in the Varus Tahm Kench. I wonder if SKT will respond with some early game picks of their own. Teddy's been loving the Lucian, he's been loving the Kalista.
So traditionally, they've liked the Kalista into the Tahm Kench lanes because you can just pump in the Ren stacks and not actually press Ren until after Grey health comes down. But if they want Kalista, they'd have to take it first round, and it would likely be in lieu of one of these jungle picks. However, they could drop their support, take Lee Sin now. They're kind of caught between two options. They just prefer the entire power of the Kalista Galio lane we alluded to.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense. You know, if you are really trying to get this Kalista in, I do think you need to be able to play it alongside an aggressive engage type support. You know, if they did grab Lee Sin here and they took the Kalista, you could certainly see things like the Galio and maybe even the Thresh being targeted out by TL in bans. But again, TL, you know, they have to kind of make their decision. Are you going to take your jungler here? Instead, it is going to be the Kennen, and they have seemed happy in a couple of these games now to take the Kennen into the Ryze. Yes, it is considered, you know, a losing matchup, but Impact is generally more about pushing side lanes and grouping for the team fight regardless, so I think, you know, that is not going to be the way that TL would win the game anyway, you know, in an extended side lane 1v1.
And Kennen has been a comfortable pick for Impact. He's been able to consistently, you know, make a mark on those team fights, use the ultimate to good success, and hasn't looked like the liability he was kind of expected to be heading into this tournament.
It's one of those decisions that if this was the first day of the tournament, you'd be in there being like, ooh, don't know about this, the matchup doesn't work. But we've seen all the working out. They've worked out their kinks on the MSI stage, and coming into day 5, it does feel like it lines up with what, for example, Liquid Steve was talking about of knowing your own style. He will go into the Proto Belt, he probably won't go into Gunblade, and he'll just itemize into the team fights that TL feel like separates them from victories and defeats.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's about playing your own style, and this Lissandra ban is very interesting to me. This tells me that SKT is looking towards something along the lines of LeBlanc. They may be trying to, you know, kind of trick TL a little bit and see if they can actually draw that sort of a ban. Instead, TL with the Olaf ban here tells me they're trying to set up for that potential Lee Sin pick, take away the last of those kind of high priority physical damage junglers with their first pick in the second round. That being said, we have seen some Xin Zhao from some teams, Boogie notably, playing it quite a lot. So there are still those other options.
But I kind of agree with your first point, Azael, of it doesn't really make sense to not ban the Lee Sin here if you don't want to pick it, because Clid has shown such a level of mastery over the pick that he can reinvent himself whatever the matchup. Notice the Skarner ban actually comes to SKT, a TL special when it came to kind of around the playoff stages. If you want that Lee Sin, either pick it now or show us you have another strategy to subvert it.
Skarner banned away. Still something we have not seen from TL yet on this stage. SKT giving it the respect, though, after you mentioned fantastic playoffs with that pick, but you can tell TL taking their time, debating on what they want to go for, and it will be the Hecarim now locked in.
Yeah, and this is a potential flex, you know, but very unlikely that we would see that. You know, we have seen at times Kennen move to mid in very specific matchups, but definitely expecting this to be a Smithy jungler. Very likely he will be going up against the Lee Sin. As I said, when you saw Lissandra banned out, you are expecting that to be LeBlanc, and you know, TL certainly should be expecting this. This is, I think, a very obvious set of picks coming through from SKT. It is going to give them an incredibly strong jungle mid 2v2. TL, again, will be on the back foot in the early stages. We have seen how much they have struggled against these top 3 teams at the tournament when playing the farm to 6 style junglers.
And with the Ghost, you can see that it's definitely going to be the jungle Hecarim like you would have first expected. And on a simple level, Lee Sin can often fall back into the playstyle of farm to 6, then impact the map. It feels like in the last year or so, that was more the strategy rather than just level 3 taking over the game. However, we saw Ning rewrite a game with his smite on a caster minion gank into the mid lane just a couple of days ago. And the fact that Clid has this excellence on it means that you can never pigeonhole him into scaling alongside something like the Hecarim.
And so many incredibly easy to gank lanes for the Lee Sin. LeBlanc, Ryze, the Kalista, Galio combo. So much easy setup in those lanes. Have to, I feel like, keep your eyes on Xmithie to try and match some of this early pressure.
Yeah, and that's going to be very difficult because you likely won't win those 2v2s or 3v3s either. It's going to be so much about tracking and avoiding that Lee Sin, I think, for these lanes, because there's gank assists all across the map, and Clid can take over.
It's almost a priority versus potential to me, because while Ryze will get into a good spot against Kennen, in the early levels you can definitely get started on the side of TL. However, the potential of all that lockdown CC, those gankable lanes, could be big for SKT.
And of course, big stakes for both of these teams heading into the day. SKT looking to secure second. It'll rely on G2 falling short a game, but they need to get the 2-0 if they want to make it there. On the opposite side, Team Liquid fighting for their lives, fighting for the final spot in that bracket stage, in those playoffs, in that best of 5. And for North America to fall flat here would be a massive disappointment to the LCS player base. We've seen how TL have performed under pressure thus far. They are going to have to take it to another level in our first game of the day if they want to match. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, SKT facing down Team Liquid. One spot remaining in that bracket stage. SKT have already secured theirs. Will Team Liquid secure theirs here? So many questions in an early game that is set to be explosive.
4 days of play down, 1 day to go, and every team still has a goal of making playoffs. No one is eliminated at the start of this game, so all the action, we're going to have to track it, we're going to have to watch the standings. This is what it's all about in an elimination League of Legends.
Yeah, I'm very excited for today, and already some things worth mentioning here. The fact that Doublelift is not running the TP because it is this aggressive lane. They have elected to go heal on the Varus, cleanse on the Tahm Kench. This is to help if you do get double taunted up, you can still cleanse and devour that Varus and try to keep him safe, because TL's bottom lane has been punished in multiple games in the early stages, and to me that is where TL has mostly been falling short against these top teams.
And TL's level 1s, I think, have also been very, very defensive. They haven't had the level 1 plans to split maps or necessarily find big leads to begin. And SKT, there's quite a lot going on here in the level 1 to discuss. One thing I want to point out is that Khan has gone Aftershock Ryze. We've seen a lot more of Comet and Phase Rush. This, to me, says he might be left on an island and potentially just have to subvert ganks 1v2.
And already seeing some aggressive trading in the mid lane. Both mid laners content trading stacks of Corrupting Potion just to lay down a bit of damage, just to threaten. Could potentially see a level 2, but feels unlikely at this point, as Lee Sin is already pathing towards the bottom side.
Starting top side, and probably going to be avoiding action until at least level 3. We've seen some very creative stuff when Faker's on LeBlanc and Clid is on Lee Sin. For example, in the LCK playoffs and during the regular season, there were level 2 ganks in the mid lane where Faker started W, took the chain, and then just went for a quick gank. In terms of pathing here, it seems like big buff into big buff is the path here, as vertical jungling enacted by Clid.
And we saw how well Clid and Faker were pairing up yesterday, particularly in the Vi and Azir game. Their coordination there was absolutely on point, and they were able to abuse mid lane very consistently. So looking for more of that from the SKT mid-jungle duo.
And let's talk about the wins that you get with vertical jungling, because right now we already mentioned Aftershock Ryze. We noted that, we were a bit surprised by it. We talked about how Khan might have to fight 1v2. Certainly, he doesn't have any jungle priority on the top side. Clid has been jungling bot side, allows Kalista Galio to push up. If you notice, Jensen playing towards his jungler.
But the chain is going to connect, has to be careful. Clid is going to move in. Jensen all but set to fall here. Flash over the wall. Clid does not hesitate to follow up. That's going to be first blood. Clid going to grab it with one more auto, taking down Jensen in the mid lane.
Yeah, making it look way too easy there. Jensen not able to play this correctly, not far enough to that top side of the map. The chains do land. He doesn't elect to actually early flash it. He isn't able to land a Scatter of the Week on the Lee Sin either. Nothing really going well there for Jensen, and he's going to go down.
On a simple level, yes, he was closer to the side of the map his jungler was on, but his jungler was going for a 4-camp clear, and it was only 3 camps into gank by the Lee Sin. That means that, as you notice, yes, Hecarim is on the top side, as is Jensen, but it's not in position to counter gank, so this path doesn't actually allow Jensen to push up halfway down the lane.
Yeah, I mean, you know, really to be able to get out of a play like that, you have to be on point with your Scatter of the Week, knocking back the Lee Sin out of the queue, trying to utilize that to actually survive. And, you know, this is a couple times now that Jensen has given up those easy first bloods, you know, against Lee Sin, and this is something that we were worried about going into it.
Absolutely. When we look at Team Liquid against the top teams, they played this slow early game, and while they have been playing slow, their opponents have not been afraid to generate massive leads, to go for aggressive plays, and you can see how heavily it has costed them.
And it was just a very technical level one. See the flash bot lane.
Is going to move in, double it, burning down though inside the Tom Kench. Is it going to be enough to take him down? Will manage to survive in the end, but inches away from death.
And remember, this is not teleport Varus, so you know he's going to have to take the long walk back to lane. He will be missing out on quite a lot, and Clid now heading up to the top side. Rune Prison gives an easy setup for this gang.
Empowered Rune Prison. Sonic Wave is going to come out. He's going to immediately follow, but gets a bit closer just to finish it off. Clid grabbing yet another kill.
He was actually anticipating the flash, so actually shorted the Q with just a W not to take extra turret shots there. Very technical gank play from the Lee Sin, and it was always going to guarantee a kill. Best Impact can say is he holds on to his Summoner Flash.
Things are going from bad to worse, though, in this early game for TL. While bot lane did not die, every other lane has already been impacted by Clid. Eyes are on Xmithy. He's been able to build up a very small CS advantage. Jensen now helping him take the Raptors, but they're going to need more from their jungler if they want to come out on top.
Yeah, they certainly are, and for Smithy, it's going to be about, again, surviving those early stages, getting to the point where you can have that relevance. But if Clid is cashing in on all these kills in the early game, you won't really ever get to that point where you can match up against the Lee Sin. And, you know, if your lanes are too far behind when you're hitting that 6, it's so devastating. And Clid, again, just like last time, is going to take this early lead and turn it into an early dragon.
And that Infernal Drake start is going to be so big for this team, as is so evidently clear from the champions on the side of SKT. I like that when we did see Xmithy and Jensen the most recent time, they were making a two-man rotation to get something. Yes, only Raptors compared to the kills and potentially Infernal Drake. They'll be finished now. But what we saw from that first gank was Faker and Clid on the same page, Xmithy and Jensen not, and now Faker and Clid back on that page.
Yeah, and Doublelift is very low. I think this is going to be a pretty easy kill for SKT. They're behind him. Forcing
out the Devour. Tom Kench now has to flash out to safety, spits him right back out. Double flash to flash for his life. Core JJ may just be the sacrificial catfish here. Taunt connects, and he will now go down. The thick scan buys a bit of time, but it is not enough as SKT find yet another kill. Yeah, no way out of that for Doublelift and Core JJ. They played it about as well as they could to escape, but you would have had to back off earlier, and now not only is it the kill, it's a second turret play going the way of SKT, and they are moving their mid and jungle advantage around the map.
And it just felt like we could call out the SKT champion picks before they were locked in, and it went exactly as we expected. So your question for TL always is, okay, clearly you expected this as well. How will you subvert that? Unfortunately, the desync between Hecarim and LeBlanc, how much is that snowballed further, given that Clid has been everywhere once again?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has. And as you say, if we are expecting this, TL has to be expecting this. And that is where it becomes a question of, okay, what is the game plan? What is the answer you had prepared for this? And so far, it looks like there wasn't one. TL certainly has not been able to match the early pressure that SKT is putting out. And again, they are heavily on the back foot here, as they have been every game against these top 3 teams.
And once again, Xmithy has that farm lane, but how much is that going to mean when every single one of his lanes is starting to lose in pressure? Syndra for now going even, but it's only getting harder, and you can see that Clid has been absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, and it's about the gold, though, right? You know, Clid, sure, he is a little bit behind in the farm, but he's still up in gold. He has had that early pressure, and it's not like the experience advantage here for Smithy is so monumental that he can now take over the game. He does have the earlier 6, so for now, certainly in a little bit of a position of power, but SKT are well aware of where he is, and you know, it will be up to him to try to make some sort of creative plays, or for TL to try to stabilize and look to get into a better position in the mid game, but SKT is likely going to look to 1-3-1.
And now May just looks to engage on the bottom side. You can see how much damage Doublelift is taking just from the combo between the Kalista and the Galio before they commit even any major cooldowns. Difficult spot to be in. It's only going to get harder. Level 6s, yes, strong for the Varus. Good to have on the Hecarim as well, but Kalista, the power to throw that Galio into the midst of an already vulnerable bot lane is only going to make things more difficult if the dive comes through again.
And the CS numbers in bot lane being plus 18 to the Kalista is a flow-on effect of Clid unlocking the map in all 3 lanes, and the turret dives they pulled off in the bot side. It means that even the sturdy Varus Tom Kench that almost always does what it suggests and wins lane, its only kind of downfall is this level of aggression, and they're not going to relent.
Smithy has to be careful. Sonic Wave not going to connect. He now knows the Lee Sin is on the bottom side.
Oh.
Quick kick flash coming in from Clint, and Smithy now has to run for his life. But no, Jensen going to get the shutdown immediately. Good kill coming through. Teddy, though, looking for the follow-up. Smithy now set to go down. Faker going to try to pick up the kill. CoreJJ saved the day for now, but Jensen will go down in the exchange. 1-for-1 at the end of the day.
Yeah, the 1-for-1 trade not too bad there. Smithy, it looked like he was electing to try to hit the ultimate on Clint instead of just going straight over the wall for the escape. They do get the shutdown. And that is a decent trade, but they will lose their blue buff. They are still getting pressured very, very heavily.
But what I want TL fans to appreciate is that is a sign of why they took this approach to the draft. They were actually in position for the counter gang because topside Impact. I think he has the kill pressure to take down Khan. You have to be ahead of the play and read the aggression as if it's predictable if you're TL. So the first few ganks, that didn't work, but this time, notice that Jensen is rotating early.
Exactly, and that's why Smithy does drop the ultimate aggressively instead of using it in retreat. That was not a failed ult over the wall, but it is Jensen getting collapsed on. SKT's bottom lane certainly has priority. They are able to make that rotation faster and still get the kill back as well as the buff for them.
And things are only getting harder. While it is nice to get that shutdown gold, while Jensen will be a bit more comfortable in his lane, once again, the pressure is still very heavily in favor of SKT. The good news is Impact's doing a little bit better on the top side. Was able to bully Rise out of lane for now, so maybe they can find some avenue to come back.
And you can see Impact is actually roaming down to the bottom lane. He has Flash and Ultimate. If SKT goes aggressive, they may not be expecting this sort of a lane play. So this is an opportunity for them to go in with the Tahm Kench Ultimate, and they're going to look for it.
Team Liquid looking to break the playbook, something that SKT probably did not expect, for the Galio now coming in, maybe just be delivering himself into death. Mata now flashing back, they're trying to peel Impact away. The Kennen might be the first to go down here. CoreJJ going to try to save him. Buys a bit of time, the Callisto Spears are there, but Teddy is not close enough, and the play just breaks.
Yeah, the set piece play, the all-in attempt, unfortunately Summoners up on Teddy, and his ability to just jump away means no kill actually enacted there. Gonna have a pause to slow down the action. I like to see the set-piece play coming through from TL. Clearly with it one they had prepared earlier, but this time not successful.
Yeah, not successful, but I do like that they are trying to make these sort of moves. You can't afford in the Kennen versus Rise to just sit in the side lane and 1v1 the whole time. So Impact knows his teleport is shortly coming up. This is a well-timed out play. His TP was not quite up, but he's going to roam down to the bot. He gets flash out of both the bot laners from SKT. He will now go back to base and have his teleport to answer Rise on the top side.
And one thing I think we should appreciate as well is that the actual champion matchup of Rise versus Kennen, when Rise doesn't see the Kennen for a while, he does say, okay, Kennen's taking a while, but he just tries to freeze and tries to actually get lane control that he didn't have in the first 7 levels. So this is one of the few times where Khan is sitting there thinking, okay, this is good. Yep, I'm going to get this freeze up the top. I'm going to get this freeze up top. And that's he's not actually incentivized to push because he hasn't been able to control the lane previously. So there actually hasn't been, until maybe just as the pause comes in, a lot of threat on the turret plates. That's going to be a lot more recent.
A short pause, of course, we'll be getting back into game shortly. But good that you point that out. Maybe not costing as much as it could have. Rise, of course, probably going to get a few tower plates on the top side as he is pushed in for now. But Impact will have that TP up shortly, can return to the top lane. And I like that Impact is playing for his other lanes and that Team Liquid is willing to play for Doublelift, who's been put into a disadvantaged state on the bot side.
And Impact, to me, has been the best player for TL throughout MSI. I think he has actually been strong, throughout all of the games here. Certainly not without question. He hasn't had a perfect play, but he has been very solid, and he has been matching up to some of the most impressive top laners in the world here. And the TP, or rather play, does end up costing him a couple turret plates, but certainly he is going to be there to at least pick up most of the farm. And this does perhaps set up Smithy to try to make a play on the bottom side now that both Teddy and Mata do not have their flashes. And that is what's going to tell me if this play was worth it or not, because you have to cash in on those lost summoners, or you just gave over that gold to Rise for free.
Yeah, but for now, unfortunately, no pressure on the bottom side means that the Team Liquid bottom lane does not want to move up and try to contest. They don't have the vision there either, and they're giving respect for the all-in potential from that Lee Sin. Cloud Drake going over. SKT will not be contested there. Smithy does spot it out, but chooses to back away.
Now we fall into a bit more normalcy and the levels start to come through. Always a treat to watch Faker in full flight. Has got a couple of kills already to his name. We'll see where the game starts to transition. I imagine the next Infernal Drake spawn is when the teleport flank from Impact is going to be much closely watched on both ends. But for now, Jensen pushes out, and we wonder where the next flare point will be in this first game of the day.
And I think one of the tough things here for TL, is that, yes, great, you got those summoners off of Teddy and Mata, but now Khan has TP advantage. And you can see he's actually walking back to lane. So SKT can play very heavily around that. Even if Smithy were to look bot, Khan could easily answer that and look to try to turn that sort of play around. And SKT even do have a couple lane wards that even if in the 2v2 they're pushing up too far, they could be heavily punished by Khan.
But I want to show you that TL have already anticipated that and left the bot lane that looked like it was going to be standing gold. It's a good look from them. So they're going to have to ult away.
Forced to ult away. Impact, though, now needs to run. Has to be careful. Realm Warp is coming forward. 2 members right on top of him. He's going to use the ulti, but just gets immediately deleted. Faker now on a killing spree.
Yeah, Faker, well done by him. Another move up to the top side of the map. He collected that blue buff and just goes straight up there. But TL seemingly unequal to the play. And Impact is going to go down pretty easily once again. Smithy also having to use the ultimate, which is another pretty costly cooldown there. And that means SKT are going to continue to stack up these neutral objectives very easily.
Oh, Faker. Poor JJ trying to save the day there, but when SKT have this lead, when they push their vision forward like this, it feels so impossible to enter your own jungle, to even survive in your own territory.
Yeah, the deep ward prepared earlier means that any defensive setup around the Rift Herald is so easily answered, and of course getting a pick before all this started made it trivial. SKT is moving their battlefield, and even though TL are making nice counter rotations to try to stem the bleeding, SKT staying 1 foot ahead.
Yeah, and here is this play one more time. Faker up to the top side, already forcing out the ult from Smithy, as he know he would have gone down there. And Impact did not have his flash from that bot lane play, so no real way out for him once the Realm Warp came in. But to check in on kind of what we were talking a lot about yesterday, Papa Smithy, for SKT, they certainly are checking those boxes here again against TL for having a more impressive early game. And you can see days 1 to 3 certainly playing much more slowly. Day 4, yes, it was a lower level of opponent, but they really picked up the pace of the game.
Faker has to be careful there. We'll survive in the end, but this has been an interesting trend, seeing SKT ramp up, and now we might see TL try to make a play of their own. Khan taken out. Good use of the Tom Kench ultimate to move into that top side and stop the rise, but it will just be a tower trade in the end as the Rift Herald crashes bot lane.
And this tempo of the push, the speed at which the Rift Herald charge is going to actually amplify SKT, makes it hard for TL to answer this push. They're trying something top side. Faker goes in mid.
Not going to connect though on the chain, so we'll back off on the play, but does force Jensen back. Gets that health bar low enough and that mana bar as well that he can't feel comfortable staying in lane.
Yeah, I mean, SKT are just so far ahead on this play, though. That is 2 easy turrets for them. TL still has not even knocked down the first, and Doublelift is going to have to go back to base, not knowing where anyone is. So that is 2 turrets to 0, and this is closing in on a 5,000 gold lead just past 14 minutes. SKT so far ahead in this game, and it's setting them up incredibly well for this second Infernal that you had talked about earlier. Such an important part of the game, and TL, trying to build up enough items, enough gold to really compete there, doesn't feel like they're going to be able to do it.
SKT trying to reach for that 6,800 average gold difference of 15 they had yesterday. That was against PVB and Flash Rolls and expected victories, while they come in, again, favorites against TL. Channeling and grasping towards that sort of pace can only serve them that up well, even though all the fans around the world are waiting to see whether they can recreate that level against IG later today.
And it's important because, of course, SKT are not out of the battle for second. They do still desperately want to find that. They want to avoid facing IG in the first round of the bracket stage. Obviously tied with G2, 0-2 in the head-to-head, so they need to have more wins. If it's a tie, G2 will get that second place by default. They need to find a way to pull ahead, and it starts with a win here.
Exactly. I mean, all you can control is whether you win your 2 games. If they 2-0 today, they get some help from G2's opponents, they drop a game, then all of a sudden you do lock in that second place and avoid IG, which really is looking like a death sentence in the semifinals.
One thing to remember is when we had the graphic up before, the kills didn't change a lot between days. I think the turret plate marker that showed 9 turret plates in the early game here, it kind of flows into this expectation of what is aggression in the meta. People have been pointing out the game time not that long, but SKT being called kind of a slower paced team. 9 turret plates is the sign of a team always pushing forward for every aggressive advantage, and that's the SKT we want to see.
And SKT incredibly rewarded by the current meta for drafting a lot of these early game picks. As you said, so much standing gold in the tower plates, but there's a timer. If you're not active and aggressive before that 14-minute mark, you're not going to be getting any of that standing gold.
Yeah, you're definitely not, and TL definitely not in a position to even challenge for that second Infernal, so the advantage is just continually stacking up here for SKT. I mean, Faker's even chipping away at that inhibitor turret 16 minutes in, and yes, it is answered by Impact, but you can see how far behind the ball TL really are looking.
Faker coming over the wall, chunking out Jensen. Jensen potentially with enough wave clear here to try to threaten, but Faker just comes right back over. They want to get down a little bit of damage on the tower, but SKT not looking to overcommit. Double Lift though, going to throw out the ultimate. Perfectly timed there, but Khan with the Aftershock. All but untouchable in that exchange. Clid on the way up as well. Double Lift realizes he's not quite in the situation he wanted to be. Clid going to get him kicked back. Guaranteed follow-up Q. Double Lift taken out.
No way out of that one. Clid keeps his wits around him, doesn't even have to flash to make the play happen. The Aftershock negates those all-in plays in the side lanes. Usually, no Seraphs, no chance for the Rise, but the Aftershock negates it. And now Hecarim, he's already out.
Faker? They get baited out. They thought he was going for one target. He's going for the other, but Impact's going to step forward. He wants a kill of his own, trying to lock up the entire team. CoreJJ moving forward. Jensen, though, on the front lines, also going to be in trouble. SKT will back off for now, sending that Galio back and out to safety.
Yeah, just another great pick there from Faker, and they have the complete run of the map. TL not able to get anything back anywhere. Smithy going down in the mid lane. They're barely able to hold on to this turret, and Jensen low on mana means he's likely going to have to go back home here pretty shortly. So SKT can just continue this pressure constantly.
It just feels like SKT have no fear of any reaction to the proactive plays they're making. Faker has been just distorting under turret to poke people out. There's no counterplay expected, and when the AD carry is split pushing and taken out, you know that the structure of any turnaround play isn't going to be there till after a full reset. No resets being granted by SKT unless TL goes super defensive.
Yeah, and I really do like the way that SKT, even in their builds, is trying to actually push the pace of the game. You can see the Glacial Shroud on Rise, meaning this is kind of that LPL-style build of the Righteous Glory. That is going to allow him alongside that Aftershock to be playing more of a pseudo frontline role. It is more engage and catch in the sidelines as well. And this is Smithy again, getting chunked very low. This was him barely surviving just before Faker was able to double the sword in and get that pick on his recall.
The lane ward looks like it's in turret range. It's so deep, but it's what allows Faker to make actually a pretty controlled play on a dive like that. Speaking of Faker, every time we snap out of a replay, he's at least half health someone on TL.
Yeah, and forcing the barrier out from Jensen, it's only going to get harder and harder to survive up against Faker at this point in the game, and SKT are just in such a commanding position. We've seen TL in even games be able to play it out cleanly, be able to play across the map, but right now, there's just really no options for them to make plays on the map.
And I honestly feel like with the Dragons that are spawning, there's no hope even of outscaling your opponents, because this is a third Infernal coming up now for SKT. That is such a monumental advantage on top of their gold lead that it really starts to get hard to think of any sort of way in which TL could claw their way back in. So I am expecting TL to challenge at this next Dragon, and I think that has to be where you make your stand and just pray for some sort of a team fight victory.
And again, with a comp like TL have, with Syndra Varus, you need to prep your vision and set up for a team fight you can't re-invade. And actually, if you look at the minimap, TL actually don't control any quadrant of the map currently. That has to change before an objective spawn.
Which makes it even more terrifying, because if it does come down to that last team fight, this is also the battle for fourth. TL need to win games if they want to lock that spot. Difficult situation for them to be in if they start to fall behind. 1 game up on Flash Wolves, 2 games up on PvP. Do not want to go into a tiebreaker at the end of the day. We don't even want to talk about the records historically. We saw what happened last year versus Fnatic.
Well, we can talk about them. It's a 0% win rate for North America.
Terrifying spot. Interestingly enough, Mata may have overstepped. Now Teddy just going to pull him right back, though. Has that insurance policy. Teddy happy to pull him out of danger.
And that's one of the few avenues where TL can chase for something, is down a lane where the vision is not as important, which we already mentioned they haven't laid. Khan looking in, doesn't know Impact's here.
Goes coming out. Impact, though, just going to splinter cell his way out of that one. Does not want anything to do with that fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no way they can actually take him down, even in that 2v1. With the Aftershock and the Seraphs available, there was always going to be an SKT response, so Impact taking the smarter play there will back off, and TL may try to look for something again. It is so much down, I feel, to this next Infernal Dragon. It's going to be up in nearly 30 seconds, and TL have not been able to establish vision control in that area, as you said.
And they just try to chase, but they have so little vision, and they're spotted more often than not. We saw that SKT had a ward just around that torch near the mid lane. They're pushing in further. Here's Faker.
Throwing down a little bit of damage. Now the taunt is coming in as well. Teddy keeping his eyes set on the tower. They will manage to break down mid lane. TL grouped up under that tower, holding onto that tier 2 for now. They will clear the way, but things only get scary. Look at that vision. They concede absolutely nothing on this map.
And you just have to love the way that SKT are playing this out. They're harassing from multiple sides of the lanes. You have Faker poking from the left side, Clid on the right side, threatening a dive. And that is just pushing TL off of the towers. And TL now are in a position where even if they try to contest for this, the Dragon is already gone, so there's nothing they're really able to respond to, and you have to give so much credit to SKT and the way that they actually manufactured this third Dragon take.
Ooh. No vision on the side, though, but they anticipate the flank coming. CoreJJ going to do what he can to save his teammates, but he himself may be in the line of fire. Faker, though, overstaying his welcome, but will manage to make it out. Arrow not going to connect either. Team Liquid trying to get something back, but they have found nothing yet. Mata has to be careful. Impact looking for the flank. This could be his moment, but the flank is warded out as well. Now the Galio is going to move into the fight. Xmithie goes golden, but it may just be a death sentence for him as he does get caught out. Khan going to grab the kill in the end. Teddy and Khan so incredibly low. Double F trying to get something back. Khan will drop in the end. SKT, though, going to continue to look for the dive. Stepping forward, Faker into the midst of the team. Impact trying to find the disengage, but gets juked out by the distortion and gets nothing in return.
SKT with the Aftershock Rise can actually make this fight happen, poking for more, stopping the backs, keeping up the pressure. They're just never done. Their foot is so jammed on the accelerator. Here's Glid.
Oh, Jensen has a Tomkinch there to save the day. Glid would have taken that one otherwise.
Yeah, not going to be able to get that kill, but they are going to be able to get everything else. I mean, when you have a LeBlanc that's this fed, on top of Triple Infernal, one of the things I always like to talk about with Assassins is hitting certain damage thresholds. And when you have that damage threshold where you can threaten 100 to 0 with your combo, the map becomes your playground. And Faker is certainly at this point, and look how tanky this Rise is. Aftershock, plus the armor and health on that Righteous Glory, as well as the Seraphs, means he can tank up and make these aggressive plays.
He feels strong enough to walk up in a guaranteed 4v5 because he knows his mid laner is on a back timing, the sort of thing that really hurt them in previous series. But right now, because it's a lot more calculated, they know their strength and they know that TL are so far behind.
And now we're seeing SKT do to TL what TL have done to so many teams. We saw them do it to PBB in the play-ins. Once they have a lead, they choke you out, they push you out of the game, and it must be so infuriating for Team Liquid right now to know that there's so much pressure on them and they have so little agency in this game.
And I honestly feel like anytime you are playing a game, despite the Gold League, when you look up and see 3 Infernals, you're feeling doomed, right? And SKT, I think, is giving no options for TL in this game. They are playing it so cleanly. And with this lead, and with the Kalista, I think there's really nothing stopping SKT from playing it out however they want. You can go to the Baron, force a fight there, look for a turn. You can also play this out in a clean 1-3-1 game, avoiding fights. There's not really any hope for TL besides a miracle team fight or a lot of picks in a row that are really pre-set up by SKT's mistakes.
So with that inevitability you're alluding to, Azael, we get to actually see how SKT chooses to play it out and try to determine what that means with future opposition. It's very likely their future games from here. IG in the last best of 1 into a best of 5 against G2 if results go as expected. So does SKT grind out TL or do they just try to blow them up?
Difficult to be certain, but keeping our eyes for now, they have grouped up. They are trying to get a little bit more control in the jungle. Impact now forced to run. That constant threat, you said it already, Azael, that 100 to 0 from Faker just looming anytime anyone steps forward. For now, the game is about vision. We'll see where they want to put their lane assignments. Let's move a little bit further forward. No eyes on the Baron quite yet. Jensen just getting that Banshee's pop. Faker just poking constantly at the armor, trying to find a weakness.
If you look at the inventory, so only a single control ward in the inventory from Khan means that actually contesting the red side jungle vision from TL is not possible right now for SKT. It's one of the few times where actually SKT are going to be forced into some backs, be forced into some reactive play, and TL have actually been able to set up a defensive perimeter that allows Syndra and Varus, admittedly with less items, to walk up and contest.
Yeah, and TL are really trying to hang on to this area. I mean, it's so much about this top jungle quadrant when you are talking about Baron takes. This really is what gives you access in towards checking the Baron pit. If you lose control of this area, you no longer even have the ability to ward out the Baron, to even know if they were attempting it. And that really is the last bastion of hope for TL, trying to prevent the Baron or perhaps stop SKT on a take.
Oh, Sleeper can spawn him, but it might be too little too late. Blastcon takes impact to safety. Chains aren't going to connect an inch. Within an inch of death, rather, as that play fizzles out.
Often the Nexus can be an Alamo, but it's the last defense point.
Going to find a 3-man taunt. Now backing off, though, immediately. Jensen is going to get taken down. Faker now unstoppable. SKT, though, hold back. They are not interested in overstepping. They'll take that control of the Baron, and they may just start it up.
Yeah, I think they very easily can just start this up with Teddy, start stacking up those spears if they want, but they see TL coming in, and they will look for the turn.
Or CoreJJ is going to need to save double if he doesn't even have the time. He has to back away. CoreJJ is next on the list. Xmithie desperately just trying to get some farm off to the side, but it might be too little too late for the entire entire TL team. Clid grabbing the kill onto Core JJ, and SKT in absolute control. Impact, though, waiting on the flank, has a bit of vision. Could try to make a play here to save this game for TL.
He does have Smite, so that is your kind of 1 in a million shot here with the Spellbook Smite, but he's warded out, and there's no way it's going to happen now.
No flash either. Has to be careful. Maybe we'll try to go for the desperation play anyway. It's just instead going to go into the mid lane, of course, with a Kalista and a Lee Sin. Very difficult to contest already. But now Team Liquid will back off, choosing not to contest that one in the end, and Baron will go into the hands of SKT.
It's nice to see the little things. It's nice to see the tracking. Of course, the global notification of the Smite take would have been something that had put Mata on high alert. Impact just smites a minion and moves away. We talked about how this was the Alamo for TL, the last place they had to fight. If they lose control of this, it feels like they're in some ways giving up the game. They try to walk up, but the moment Jensen is down, the Realm War play is a lot more academic than hopeful because it's a 5v4.
Yeah, exactly. SKT, there's no reason for them to take the 50-50, so they look for the turn, they get the picks, they know they have incredible Baron secure with Kalista and the Lee Sin, so just wipe TL off the map, secure another neutral objective here. That'll be the 5th Dragon for SKT this game, as they have been in complete control start to finish.
Absolute dominance, but Faker overstaying, will still manage to make it out to safety, though that's a heartbreaker for TL. Desperately wanted that shutdown.
The weight of items, guys. Unfortunately, the levels on the items means that the breakpoints aren't there for the counter kill for TL. Faker can back away, TP onto a ward. Now they're looking to break the base on their first Baron buff.
And at 28 minutes, when you have a 12K gold lead, it feels like miracles are the only way the enemy team manages to make it back, and it feels a shame to count Team Liquid out at this point in the game, but feels nigh impossible to find a comeback.
Yeah, certainly so. With how SKT is playing this out with triple Infernal, 12,000 gold lead, you really see no avenue for TL to get back in, and SKT is going to be able to crack the base so easily. Clid and Faker knocking down one inhibitor, Khan uncontested on the top side. This should be a triple inhib. SKT looking to close this one out quickly.
And Team Liquid just seem defeated in the way they're playing. They do not know where to pick. You said the Alamo already happened, and you can see it in the way that they play. They're backing off now, but SKT still going to look to close out with confidence. Teddy going to grab a kill. Galio into the back line, powered up by the Lee Sin. Double up immediately deleted. It is an absolute slaughter in the base of TL. The triple for Teddy going to look to make it a quadra. Pulling through in the end. SKT from start to finish have dominated this game.
Another Kalista game, another no-death game for Teddy. SKT put TL into the ground. They even realm warped some minions to watch it front row seat.
And SKT played this one out to perfection. They had the early aggression, they had the control in the mid game, stacking neutral objectives, a clean Baron take to boot. They really gave TL absolutely no hope in this one, and this is the kind of SKT you want to see to start to believe that they can challenge against that top 2.
And while the game timer might not have been in the mid 25 minutes, what we could see was the turret plates go down and the amount of aggression around snowballing objectives like SKT showed. Like you say, SKT did everything they could against PvB, against Flash Wolves, and against TL to give their fans hope of future opponents, but hope rings eternal until they actually sit in the chair and have to face those 2 big contenders.
Terrifying position to be in, but the good news for SKT is they are currently 1 game up over G2. If G2 loses again to Fongbu Buffalo, they'll be comfortably in the lead, and that's an idealistic situation, but the VCS fans are looking forward to it. EU has to be feeling uncomfortable because with SKT looking this dominant, what happens when it is going to come down to that best of 5 has to be on people's nerves.
Yeah, it always is. And I mean, for TL, they now have only 1 more chance to get a win here. They're hoping that people are going to do them a favor and clean up against Flash Wolves to avoid a potential tiebreaker.
It's only hope, though, guys. At this point, that we talked about how they had their fate in their own hands. Now, a lot less so.
And difficult when you're losing games to those opponents that you go up, that you are fighting for that 4th place spot in. But for more on how SKT absolutely dominated Team Liquid, let's hear from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Dracos. You can absolutely say that again. Dominance out of SKT over TL this time around. Not going to inspire a ton of confidence moving forward for TL, again, to grab one of those victories here in their scheduled games to maybe finish 4th.
No, I mean, we were kind of anticipating. I think most of us would have said 0-2 on the day for Team Liquid, but you still want to see a little bit more out of the games as an NA
Where's
fan.
the fight?
Yeah, I mean, they made like 1 or 2 proactive plays. They often came up kind of short, and that's what I think ultimately hurt the most was like some of the ideas weren't bad around the Tom Kench ulting people in and stuff, but they just felt like they're a step slow behind a lot of the other top teams.
There's just waves of information for anybody that's out there that wants to like dig deep and VOD review. This is the game to do it because SKT did a layer of things. The first one was literally splitting the sides of the map. So Hecarim had no way to actually play towards what was their only strong side. Literally the only lane that was going to be good for Team Liquid. Know where the Hecarim's going to be there. Then he goes mid lane. So it really was just a game about Clid because Faker set him up well for that gank.
Yeah, and I just think that when you have a look at how this game started, this is a full chain landing without flash, without distortion. Faker literally walks at Jensen, sets up Clid, and then Clid visits every single lane and just pays that forward.
Yeah, go ahead. You go for it.
I was gonna say, this is why we were saying, or at least I was saying, I want more proactivity out of their lanes to set kills up for Clid, because when you have that setup and a really aggressive, smart jungler, you start to be able to turn all these plays.
And this continues on, and it really does feel like a snowball. The mid lane one, for me, just is the most powerful because Faker had set up that wave for such a long time. And the matchup is, we've seen that one so often. Like LeBlanc versus Syndra is a tried and true tested matchup where it's like, okay, if the lane is tough for the Syndra, then you need to be hovering for the map. Hecarim was nowhere near him, and that was just an easy game for him.
A kill mid, a kill top, a kill bot. It's easy to look at that and say, well, Clid just won them the game there, but that's not the only way to quantify the advantages that he actually garnered for the team.
Because off the back end of the ganks, he picks them up a couple of dragons and he's able to take down 9 turret plates with the help of the team. He takes Rift Herald as well and starts to open up the map bottom lane. And because of the control he's had already, there's no counterattack for Team Liquid. They didn't have the vision to even be able to push for their first turret. This was really a jungling clinic on not only aggression, but then control and holding it for such a long duration. You know, first 14 minutes of the game just looked like SKT's domain.
Add a CSD of 40 there for Teddy on top of all of that. And it just, I mean, there's just no way TL can come back from that. And that's where I want to come to you, Mark, because we've got that Hecarim jungle again. We talk about looking for early plays, protecting those lanes or set up for ganks. And Smithy was an absolute non-factor in this one.
Smithy was an absolute non-factor, but you also have to look at your solo laners and like what they're able to play into. Like giving up Ryze versus whether it's IG, G2, or now SKT, giving that up and having Kennen be your answer is a tough position to be in because you're also banning out the other 3 flex picks. So you're not even like trading the Ryze for something else. Everyone knows you don't play Ryze. And when you start looking at like what does Team Liquid actually do with their bans on red side, I don't know if there's a way out of it. And from that position, you can't get good matchups in the top lane. You struggle to get good matchups in the mid lane. You end up in very difficult positions.
When there are 5 good flex picks and you ban 3 of them phase 1 and then you ban another flex pick in phase 2, but you still give over Ryze, like what's the point of banning the flex picks at this point? There's 5 of them. You know that they're going to get their hands on whichever one they want. They're not playing the game your way. I would have much preferred like play towards your strengths. Give them a good solo lane. You need a good matchup bottom lane. You give Teddy his best champion. And that game just through bottom was going to be difficult for TL.
I mean, at that point, I'd almost prefer that you remove just more of the junglers. Take every single early game jungler out of the equation for Clid, and then just make it more about the lanes.
So like the strategy and then the execution. For me,
Absolutely.
Like the execution, SKT recognized what was going to be the skill matchup in the mid lane, the strong point for TL in the bottom side of the map. So the level 1s of, you know, trading, pushing Hecarim to the top side of the map, suddenly, you know what, Team Liquid doesn't have a lane that they can play through anymore. And then you're thinking about mid lane, Hecarim's not hovering over the lane. So like, what was Team Liquid's early game strategy when they pushed away from the strength and never fought back?
Well, the problem is that there is nothing they can do. You have, even at level 1, 5 champions are just not as good as the enemy champion. So you have to play level 1 on the back foot. And then early game, Hecarim's not going to be able to contest Lee Sin on first clear. No one can contest Lee Sin, apart from maybe Xin Zhao that we see a lot on the first clear. So you have to play the avoidance strategy. This is where I don't think it's Smithy's fault. If you're being put on control junglers, your lanes need to do better. That's pure and simple. If you're Jensen, you get hit by that chain, you need to burn your flash because there is no way back into the game for you if you hold on to it. Flash late and then still die. This is something we've seen out of Liquid so often. They're burning summoner spells whilst dead. Jensen used both of his, and that's just so hard to play back into.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately the case for me. Like, I don't think Smithy's playing great, don't get me wrong, but when the draft is that difficult because you're not playing the flex picks the way the other top people are, and then they're not even playing well with the picks you do give them, it's so hard to play from that position.
And that's taking nothing away from SKT because you still have to be able to execute on the early game. And how active they were. We keep saying this team falls into the slow bucket, that they can't go with G2 and, IG in the pace of the game. This game shows the complete opposite of that. They're picking LeBlanc, they're picking Kalista. This is an all-out early game comp, and they smashed TL in the early game.
And to Papa Smithy's point about this team being a chameleon, because they really can play to the early game, and they're showcasing that, it's relevant in this tournament. So that whole question about SKT versus Invictus Gaming certainly is flaring, and that's going to be our last.
Yes. I cannot wait to see that matchup later in the day after this performance from SKT. When we return, though, G2 Esports.